Older women have aged out and men are done with them. We've got a video for you here today from men only. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's jump right into it.
Can somebody please explain to me why it's so common that a man will be pursuing a woman or saying that he's interested in her or she's wifey and will be like actively pursuing a woman and not want to know a single thing about her, not ask her any questions about her childhood, her favorite things, her music, what she loves, the thoughts in her head? I don't understand why it's such a common thing that a man will be pursuing a woman and not want to know a single thing about her.
That's because the men she goes after don't care to know her. They take one look at her and know that she's not the one to be taken seriously.
Like when I like someone, I want to know everything about them. I'm interested in them. I'm interested in how their mind works and what they're into, their past, their traumas, like everything. I want to know everything. Why is it so common that a man will not want to know, not ask any questions? My best friend just got home from a massive trip and a guy that's heavily pursuing her picked her up, didn't even ask her how her holiday was or anything about her holiday. A prime example. What is that? It's weird. It's so weird.
What does she mean when she says this guy is heavily pursuing her friend? That's not a thing. It just sounds like another way of a modern woman trying to get out of explaining that she's in a situationship with a guy but is too embarrassed to admit it.
For the longest time, I fell for the propaganda that if a guy makes you anxious or makes you overthink that he's the problem or like he's not the one for you. Yeah, so it turns out I think actually I am the problem. Now don't get it twisted. I think there are many situations that exist that are completely valid reasons for why a guy would make you feel anxious or give you butterflies all the time. But when I'm speaking for myself here, and again, all I can speak for is myself, majority of the anxiety that I have ever experienced when it came to having a man's presence in my life actually boiled down to undiagnosed OCD.
Even when this woman supposedly tries to take accountability for her actions, she still has to blame it on a mental disorder. It definitely is a good thing that she got diagnosed, but at the end of the day, that's merely an explanation, not an excuse for her behavior.
Specifically OCD in the form of rumination and spiraling thoughts. And when I learned this, I was like, I still don't have words because I'm like, this makes so much sense as to why I always just became so obsessed with a guy every time he was in my life. Because when you have the kind of OCD that I have, perfectionist OCD, you not only feel like you have to be a perfectionist about yourself, but you also feel like you have to become perfect for someone else.
Modern women ruminate on the chads that walk into their lives all the time. A lot of them will even fantasize about what they need to do in order to get them to marry her. That's not to say her OCD isn't valid, but it seems like a convenient cop-out, honestly.
So if the guy doesn't text you back, maybe you say something that upsets him or he doesn't respond for a certain amount of time, whatever the situation is, it really doesn't matter. You are constantly hyperanalyzing and overthinking every single thing that you are saying and doing. You are rereading everything. You rehearse every single conversation that you had both in person and over text, making sure that you don't miss a single detail. And God forbid, if you miss a detail, you have to start from the beginning and go through the conversation as though you are living it in this present moment. Because if you don't have every single detail correct, then you are not going to feel like you are in control of the situation. And you are going to feel like it is your fault. Because in your mind, things are not perfect.
That almost sounds like every modern woman who had an argument with their significant other. They rehearse the arguments and then they go online to complain about the argument nonstop in just enough detail for them to avoid accountability.
This is what perfectionist OCD manifests as in romantic relationships. One thing feels off with you and you instantaneously blame it on yourself. Because if you did not act perfectly in a specific situation, you are not going to feel satisfied with yourself until you figure out exactly what it was that you did wrong and how you can fix it. And so you are constantly living in a state of anxiety and fight or flight, even if the guy is doing absolutely nothing wrong. Or even if he is doing something wrong and maybe he is a toxic man, which again, I've been there. It doesn't matter because you still blame it on yourself.
It is incredibly rare to see a video of a modern woman blaming herself for an argument or something that a man did to upset her. If anything, these women go out of their way to avoid having to take responsibility for anything. Nothing is ever their fault.
All the signs could be there that this person is treating you horribly, this person is leading you on, playing hot and cold. Oh no, you're still gonna go back and reread and memorize every single conversation because you're trying to think, what did I do wrong to make this behavior happen? So again, you are constantly living in a state of anxiety because you don't trust yourself. And why don't you trust yourself? Because you are holding yourself to very unrealistic expectations of perfection. So basically, what I'm trying to say is throughout my entire 20s, whether or not a guy was good for me, it was basically a lose-lose situation because I was going to cause myself anxiety anyway.
It was a lose-lose situation because she clearly kept going after the wrong men over and over again. And because these were the men that she desired, she kept giving them passes because she wanted the men who clearly didn't feel the same way about her.
It's scary times out here. And I'll be honest, I'm at the point in my life where I don't want a man anymore. I think it's cool to not have a man. I think that's coming back. And I think that... yeah, I prefer happiness, peace, focus on my career, do my thing, and not have someone yapping in my ear and ruining everything. So I feel like if you see me talking to a man, you have permission to knock me the fuck.
If a modern woman ever has to set up her camera and say that she's super happy being single, you already know that she is not super happy being single.
Dating in your 50s is so stupid. I was looking out my window and I was reminded of one of my horror stories. I'm going to show you. I'm walking distance to a bunch of restaurants. Oftentimes, I look out and I see all these restaurants where my hopes and dreams were dashed. Walk over all dressed up and all in my whatever finery and get kind of excited and only to have everything's crushed. So this was a one-hit wonder. What am I going to call this guy? Let's call him Puffy Coat Guy.
It's bad enough that she's compiled a list of horror stories of men she dated back in her prime, but what makes it even worse is that she has a long enough memory to remember the clothes they were wearing so that she can avoid giving him an actual name.
I thought this one would be better because we knew all these people in common. So we meet on the apps, I think it was Hinge, and we knew a bunch of people in common. And I was like, okay, all right, okay, you can't be terrible because we know 5 or 6 or 7 people in common. No, you could still be. Why would that make me think he was going to be okay? So anyway, I walked to meet him. So here's the view from my window.
If a modern woman ever tells a story and describes the guy as terrible while also laughing, then he wasn't that bad of a guy, he just wasn't interested in her.
And I'm walking along on the right lane, on the right-hand side, and he's parked in one of these, I can't zoom in closer, but he's parked in one of those cars up there. And when you run into somebody but you're not expecting it and you try to pretend you're invisible. I pretended I was invisible because I'm slick. I was I'm not ready. This isn't how, I'm not supposed to walk by your car with you sitting in it while I walk into the restaurant. That's not how we meet each other. That's not how it works in the rom-coms.
Nobody ever told this woman that life isn't a romantic comedy movie, and people are under no obligation to make your rom-com fantasy a reality. Life is full of awkward moments, and that doesn't change because you don't want to run into someone that you know on the street.
I just kept walking. I go into the restaurant. He comes in, and he's got a puffy coat. And I don't mean just a puffer jacket. Here, let's do a reenactment. Okay, so he had on a puffy coat. Let's say he's got a puffy coat on, right? We incorporate props into our story. I don't mean this. This is what I mean. He was like a quilt. I don't even know how to explain it. I'm not kidding. Because you can't make this up.
Apparently, this man was so terrible and so traumatizing that the first thing this woman complains about is what kind of jacket he's wearing while walking into a restaurant to meet her for a date. That's how you know that her story is overdramatic in every way possible.
This is literally him on our date. So I go to hug him, and he's all puffed. This is him, and I'm like, well, maybe he'll remove his comforter when he sits down. No, he didn't. The whole date, I'm bursting out. A comforter. It was a mattress topper, And we're in like this cute little bar and it was warm. And tell me about yourself and tell me that. I'm just like, you take off your coat? Like, what's under there? What's under there?
If a woman's dating horror story, quote unquote, involves her freaking out over a guy not wanting to remove his coat at a table, then you know the date isn't nearly as bad as it sounds. It may be a little awkward, but nowhere near a dating horror story that people have legitimately experienced.
I want to see like what lies beneath, but I didn't. I'm worked up. I have no idea what's under there, so I don't know like what the body's looking like. Now I dated guys with not great body. My body's not perfect. What are you hiding? So I'm like, this is weird. Like, this is just weird. And then he goes on about he's had a lot of medical issues, and he had had a heart attack, a bypass, kidney failure, and a kidney transplant. That's a lot. And also, what's under there?
Imagine judging a guy for having to have multiple surgeries to save his life. Some people aren't born in perfect health, but that shouldn't have any bearing on the guy's character. But apparently that doesn't matter when the dude is wearing a puffy coat.
But I just kind of was just like, I don't even think we're going to have a second date. We eat, we get up to leave. He's like, I'll drive you home. And meanwhile, I'm like, I know exactly where your car is. See, I live just down the street. I think it was cold. He was prepared for the elements in his car. And in the console is an open can of High Noon. That's liquor, right? Like that's like a hard seltzer or beer. What is High Noon? I know it's not. I know it's alcohol, but it's like opened and sitting in his console. And I'm like, was he like drinking before our date? Yeah, I never saw him again. He did text me like I think last summer, and he was like, "Oh, I'd love to bring you to this whatever white party." And I wrote back, I was like, "Oh, thank you, but I'm in a relationship." And then he didn't even answer. So that's that. I have nothing to say.
It is a red flag that he had an open container of alcohol in his console, but this just begs the question, if that was the case, then why did she stay in his car if she just lived down the street? Apparently this guy wasn't terrible enough for her to actually, accept a ride halfway down the block. But anyway, guys, we're going to be leaving today's episode there. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Drop a comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Peace.